There are many ways to deal with a breakup. You could party, you could drink, you could make sure that you go out there and find somebody new, you could wallow in your own self-pity, you could do all that, and then some. Explore a few of these in Glorious. They won't give in till they're victorious, and they will defend. If you're a non-wrestling fan, you have no fucking idea what that is about. It is a Shudder original. Glorious, that is, not that actual theme. That's from WWE. But anyway, yes, it is a Shudder original, directed by Rebecca McKendry, who did All the Creatures Were Stirring, and also written by David Ian McKendry. No relation, because they're married. That would be very weird. He also wrote All the Creatures Were Stirring. They did other stuff, but that's basically the central focus. Also written by Joshua Hall, who did Chopping Block. At least it's not Attack the Block. At least we don't have to worry about that. And also Todd Ringy, who did Found and Headless, taken by the Horseless Headman. I think that's how that's said. And this stars Ryan Quanten, who plays Wes, who's a man dealing with a bad breakup. He broke up with his girlfriend Brenda, who he really did like. Seemingly, we find out through flashbacks and through various pieces of dialogue how this may or may not have been the case, depending on your perspective, depending on whose perspective we want to go with in the relationship. And Wes is driving in his car, seemingly falls asleep at the goddamn wheel while having memories, but leave the memories alone. And he ends up at a rest stop. He parties, he drinks, he has pictures of Brenda because he's still not over this shit. There's a teddy bear that he smashes that is like a love letter from Brenda, but it reminds him of her. Then he ends up in a rest stop bathroom, and there's a strange voice that tells him that there may be certain things going on, and he is the only one that can prevent terrible, terrible shit from happening on Earth. So when I first saw this, what intrigued me was the goddamn cover art, so to speak. It's a guy holding either a prosthetic leg or something, and he was screaming, "Ah!" And also I saw a GIF, or GIF, however the fuck you want to say it, whatever you... Choosy moms choose GIF. If anybody remembers that watching this, I am amazed. But I saw like a giant stuffed teddy bear with dead eyes. I'm like, okay, fuck it, I'm in, so I'll watch this. And he has to talk to this voice in the stall. The voice is J.K. Simmons, by the way. Parker, get up, I called you twice. And also from Law & Order SVU. And also from the We Are Farmers, bum, 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 bum. That guy that's a great character actor. He's talking to him and basically says, hey, don't look at me. Don't even try to peek in here. I'm just going to talk to you because there are certain things that you need to know, Wes, and certain things that only you can prevent from happening. But you have to do some things like reflect back in on yourself, and you have to come up with ways to compartmentalize your, the feelings that you're having. And they continue to have chats. There aren't a lot of characters in this. There really aren't. There are 5 fucking, credited people in this. Sharon Tordy Clark, who's actually been very good in quite a bit of stuff. And Brenda, Sylvia, Grace, Krim, not Crimson. And there's also a guy named Gary. Gary. No, not that. Not from SpongeBob and not from that one MST3K episode. You know the one if you're an MST3K fan. Andre Lamar plays Gary. And basically what the movie essentially is it's a conversation between these two people, even though you only hear J.K. Simmons. And it's kind of a way that people deal with, personal feelings and mental health and stuff like that. And it's a commentary also on maybe not being a dick to your significant other, especially if your significant other loves you. That sometimes stuff you learned as a kid or stuff you saw as a kid can repeat later in life. Don't be a dick is essentially the point. And that's what I took away from this movie. Now, there are different interpretations. The movie's also only 79 minutes long, so it's nice and easy to get through. And even though it's only 79 minutes, it breezes by, as opposed to a 70-minute movie that I just reviewed, called Morbid, and boy, was it ever. This, however, is one of the good Shudder originals. Shudder has actually been knocking it out of the park with, these exclusives or originals that they've been swallowing up, like Revealer and other ones. In fact, Revealer, this kind of reminded me a bit of Revealer with a little bit less comedy. This was dealing a little more serious. Ryan Quanten actually does a very good job as Wes, dealing with the tortured soul aspect that may or may not be a tortured soul. You find out a little bit later on, is it just a facade? Is it real? Is it Memorex? And J.K. Simmons is great, even though he's just doing voice acting here. It was still pretty goddamn good because he's got a very distinctive and very good voice. For acting, for commercial, that doesn't matter. So, Anyway, then strange stuff starts happening. It does have a bit of gore and a bit of violence. And it also has the implication that, well, sometimes you can have a high opinion of yourself and maybe that comes back to bite you. Or you maybe don't deal with breakups all that great. Or maybe maybe the person you were with wasn't the person you thought they were. Whatever it was. There's a whole bunch of other themes that you can go with in this. But yeah, maybe if you find somebody that loves you, actually treat them correctly. Treat them well. And if you're not meant to be with somebody, don't fucking be with somebody just because you feel an empty void and you have to fill that. And you have to fill their void. There's tons of symbolism all around everything too. But it's a very good Shudder original. So I would highly recommend you check that out. No, I'm not sponsored by Shudder. Wouldn't mind being, but why are they going to sponsor a little show like this? Shudder's a great horror, exclusive, even though there's different layers of horror, different subgenres. They're a great horror streaming service, so I highly recommend you get them. It's a few bucks a month. I think it's like maybe $7 or $8 a month. And well worth it, because they have a hell of a goddamn library. So anyway, I am going to get into spoilers, but absolutely check this out. It is actually pretty goddamn good. I'm not going to say it's one of the best films of the year, but Rebecca McKendry understands how to do subtlety, but also how to keep the pace up. Some pretty good stuff here. So 3, 2, it's on Shudder. Go check it out. 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. Okay, so here are the spoilers, basically. It turns out that Wes may be having these memories of Brenda because he's trying to deal with his own guilt. And as the movie goes on, it becomes very obvious that there are things that maybe he's not admitting. Maybe he doesn't want to admit to himself. Also, J.K. Simmons is the son of Cthulhu. No, really. Gathanoa. But you're supposed to say it like, got another one, but then you hold the tip of your tongue and everything. Gathanoa. And that's it. You can't look in, you can't look at him, or otherwise looking at him will send you into a tizzy and you will go absolutely mad with craziness, as opposed to mad with non-craziness. And he does try to escape at one point, but he just ends up back in the bathroom. He's all covered in stuff after partying and dealing with all this stuff. The giant teddy bear factors in a little bit later. This guy Gary shows up. It turns out that Gary is actually, the park supervisor, or the rest stop supervisor, property supervisor, as it were. And then he gets killed because, of course, so racist, the black guy has to die first, or maybe he didn't die first. Wes keeps having flashbacks of Brenda. Brenda really did love him. And also, Wes tells a story about how his dad was very abusive mentally and physically, especially mentally, to the mother and him, to the point the mother offed herself. She was cheated on, a whole bunch of other stuff and everything. He let it be well known, the dad did, and then said, your mother was a very selfish woman. And Wes even tries to say, so I stopped feeling things a long time ago. Oh, and also the only way to save the goddamn universe is to go through a glory hole, but not put his dick in there. No, he has to cut out his liver. Cut out part of his liver, at least. No, really. The Gathanara has to feed on his liver, and that will somehow save the world. Again, there's symbolism and all kinds of stuff over in metaphors. Sucking the life out of somebody like he sucked the life out of Brenda. Because we see a little bit later on, after we see the giant teddy bear creature. This is where the teddy bears have their picnic. Ha! And actually, I would see a movie about giant teddy bears, except we already saw a movie about giant animatronic animals. It was called Willy's Wonderland. Check that out. That's really goddamn good. That might also be on Shudder. First, watch this, because it deals with some aspects of mental health and how you deal with, relationship breakups. So the best way I can interpret the last number of minutes, because they chuck a lot of shit there, is either she found out that he had been cheating on her, and she found a bunch of pictures in this box, and it looked like women that were happy, but then were being abused. So basically, he learned from his dad how to abuse women. Possibly. Maybe. Or it was just a collection of women that were tortured by his dad. No, I think it was actually women that he tortured. And even though they were on Polaroids, I wouldn't think anybody still uses Polaroids now. But it is what it is. And then it shows him cutting out his own liver, but then he has a knife, and Brenda's behind him in this weird voice, screaming to the void, motherfucker, and they're all reaching around, he's getting his liver sucked out. The implication is that she found out he was cheating, and he killed her, and that's why he's upset and dealing with all the guilt. At least that's what I gathered. Or did she kick him out of the house and he just left? It's a few things. They throw a lot of shit at you, so that's... I wasn't necessarily confused. but it was going a couple different ways, and it was chucking a lot of stuff at the last number of minutes. So I think maybe you could have used with a few more minutes just to explain things fully, but nevertheless, basically his liver gets cut out, he's bleeding out and everything, kind of like Saw, and almost actually kind of reminded me of exactly like Saw. And he said, he's talking to Gathama, and basically says, heroes are remembered, Wes, but you're going to be forgotten, as you should be, for being the person that you are. And we are too beautiful for this, or we're not supposed to be in this beautiful world, or we're too beautiful for this world. There's a whole bunch of different ways you could go about this movie, but it ends up getting a B+. Ends up getting a goddamn B+. By the way, Wes also dies. He dies at the end. It was based on the fact that he generally wasn't a very good guy, even though he tried, and that's why he was working on all that guilt. It ends up getting a B+ because it explores things well. While it's not perfect, and I have some issues, it is definitely more positive than negative. So there you go right there. So I'm going to give it a B+. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ricklin. I'll see you soon.